news to everyone. Go everywhere in the world.
Go everywhere in the world. Go everywhere in the world. Tell the good news to everyone. Go everywhere in the world.
The followers went everywhere in the world.
Hello again. I'm Pastor Mark of Clinton Avenue Reformed Church, and I'm bringing you the story again for this week's virtual Sunday school. If you remember, a few weeks ago we talked about Jesus walking on water. Well, we're going to talk about that again, but from a different point of view. What happened to those other disciples who were in that boat? Now, you remember the story. The disciples were in a fishing boat. All 12 of them were. Jesus wasn't with them. And at night, they saw a figure walking toward them. And they were scared. They said, "Oh, it's a ghost." And Jesus said, "It's not a ghost, it's me." You remember Simon Peter. He said, "Oh yeah, Jesus, if it's you, let me walk towards you." And Jesus said, "Come on, do it." Now, what were the other disciples doing at that point? Well, let's talk about how big this boat was. This boat was not as big as the boats we have today. You know, today we have cruise ships that hold thousands of passengers. No, these boats were probably about as big as your living room. Maybe a little bigger, but not too much. Usually there was only a couple people on these boats. 3, maybe 4 people, because you had to have room to catch fish and put the fish in the middle of the boat. This was a fishing boat. But instead of having 4 people, all 12 disciples were on this boat. Can you imagine 12 really big guys who did work for a living? They were big and strong. 12 of them all in your living room. That'd get pretty crowded. And I bet the boat, instead of sitting high in the water, was sitting kind of low in the water, because that's a lot of people in that boat. And the Bible tells us that a storm came up. The boat was pitching around. I bet there was some water going in that boat, and the disciples were taking buckets and bailing it out because they didn't want to sink. And the wind was getting strong. The Bible tells us that the wind was so strong that no matter how hard and how fast these disciples were rowing, the boat was not getting any closer to shore. The wind kept pushing it back as fast as they could row it. So they were still in the middle of the lake. And there was probably water coming in. These folks were afraid that the boat might sink. They couldn't get to shore fast enough to avoid it. That's when they see Jesus walking to them. And they're very, very afraid. The boat's not moving. The boat might sink. They might drown in the water. And when they see this image, they say, "It's a ghost." They thought they might die that day. And that's when Peter, also known as Simon Peter, said, "Jesus, if that's really you, let me walk out of this boat and toward you." What about the other disciples? Why didn't they make the same request? They were in a boat they thought was going to sink. They weren't going anywhere because the wind was pushing them back. Why didn't they make the same request? Jesus, let us get out of this crazy boat too. Jesus, let us get out of this boat that might sink. Jesus, let us get out of this boat that's going nowhere. Why didn't they do that? Did they trust their boat more than Jesus? Did they trust their own strength more than Jesus? How about you? Do you trust the things you own more than you do Jesus? Do you trust in your own strength and your own talents more than you trust Jesus? The day may come when our strength doesn't work anymore, when our strength just isn't enough. And the day may come when we're worried about these wonderful things that we own just aren't going to work anymore. You see, then it's time to say, Jesus, help us get out. Help us get out of this situation. We're not strong enough. Our things aren't good enough. That's a lesson for all of us. Jesus is stronger than a storm. Jesus is more dependable than anything we can buy. Jesus is more dependable than our own strength and talent. The answer to every problem is to draw close to Jesus, to ask him for permission to come walk toward him. Peter was filled with enough grace to do that. I wish those other disciples were too. How about you? What do you put your trust in? Things you own? Your talents? Or do you trust Jesus Christ? I hope we can all try harder and harder to trust Jesus more than anything else in the world. He's the answer to a life that might sink. He's the answer to a life that's going nowhere. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story. In a minute, Elder Daria is going to come on with a craft so you can remember this story. But I've got a request for you. If you like these virtual Sunday schools, please like them on Facebook, share them. Send the links to friends of yours so that those people can enjoy them as well. We want more and more people to learn the important Bible stories of Jesus, our Messiah, our Savior. That's our story for today. Thanks for listening. God bless you.
Hi, this is Elder Daria, and today we're going to do a craft related to Jesus walks on water. So, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make the water, have Jesus, the boat has the apostles on it, and they were afraid because it was cloudy and windy, and Jesus came to help them. And these are the parts we're going to use. I'll show you. Here is one template with the water of Jesus and the gray cloud. And this is the other template. We're going to fold it in half, each piece. The circle, the triangle, these are the sails, and this is the mast. So it would be a good idea for you to color these things ahead of time. You can color them blue for the water, yellow for the boat. As you see, blue for one sail and red for the other sail. And Jesus, his hair is brown. Cloud is gray. Okay. So I already did that, so that you don't have to wait for me to do all this. You can pause the video if you like. And then after you color everything, you can, here I colored the ocean. I have all the pieces here. I saved them with a paper clip. And I'm going to use this blue paper to paste it on, okay? And I will pour this down so you could see. Okay. Here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is paste the water down. And I put a little glue on it, just on the bottom, like that. Okay, that's good. And then on the other wave, because we're going to put Jesus in between these two set of waves. I'm going to put it on the there you go. There you go. And so now look, I had Jesus on this side, so that's where I'm going to put him, right here, in between. Put a little glue on that. You could actually not put glue, because if you wanted to, you could pretend, you could make him move closer to the boat. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But in my case, I'm going to just glue it, because otherwise I will lose it. Now each of these pieces, this is a circle, you will bend it in half. I only colored half of it because I figured if I'm going to bend it in half, it'll stick better if I don't put the crayon on both sides. So now I have this half, and I'm going to tuck it under the waves. That's why I didn't put too much glue there. And I put a little glue on. Now I can put on the paper, because I know where I want it. So here's my boat. Now I'm going to use the mast. I put it in half also. And I'm going to glue that. You don't need a lot of glue. And I'm going to put it like a little close to that half, but not that much. There you go. Oh, you could see that, okay. Now I'm going to fold the big triangle, that's going to be the large sail. Fold that in half. A little better folding. There, I fixed it. And it'll probably flare out a little bit like that, which is nice. we have a little three-dimension view of this. Feels more real if it's three-dimensional. There we go. Now we do the same thing. We fold the small sail in half. Put a little glue on it. Okay, and put it on the mast. The brown part is the mast. And the last thing we have to do is just put the cloud, because it got very stormy out there, and that's why the apostles were afraid. They also got startled when they saw Jesus coming. And the key message is keep your eyes on Jesus. Because when Peter saw Jesus, he said, Can I come to you? And Jesus says, yes, you can walk on water towards me. And as long as Peter had his eyes on Jesus, he did not sink. But as soon as he started looking at what was around him, at the clouds, at the waves, he got scared. Okay. And when he got scared, he began to sink. So the message is, keep your eyes on Jesus, no matter what trouble you're in or difficulty you are in. If you keep your eyes on Jesus and be patient, you will be fine. Okay. So this picture is to remind you to keep your eyes on Jesus. Bye-bye now. Till next time.
Jesus said to the followers,